Thank you very much for joining us this evening, for joining WomenEd and the National College of Education, working collaboratively and in partnership. I'm Vivian Porritt. I'm one of the co-founders of WomenEd and one of the global strategic leaders. And I'm the person who works in partnership with women for WomenEd with the National College. And I'd like to introduce you to Rachel O'Halloran, who is the person, the amazing, wonderful Rachel, who we work with in developing the programs that have a WomenEd cohort attached to them. And what Rachel and I are going to do is set the scene for you to find out a little bit more about the WomenEd specific programs. We have some of the wonderful learners on one of the current programs joining us to tell you about their experience, what they have learned, and the impact of the program on them. We've also got an employer joining us later, the even more splendid Christella, so that you can hear it from the organisation's point of view, and you'll have the chance to talk to the learners in the breakout rooms. You're organising the breakout rooms, aren't you, Rachel?
Yeah, and depending on how many of us there are, we might just have a couple. Colleagues, I would say if you could turn your cameras on, it'd be really lovely to see your faces. If you're not able to, it's fine, but it would be nice to see you. Hello, Amanda. Thank you. Hello, Sarah.
Amanda. Woo. Hello.
Hello, Donna.
That's super. Oh, there's still people coming in.
I will be turning off in a few minutes because I start to do the mum taxi. So it's coming off shortly.
Oh,
that's all right. Lovely to meet you. I'm going to start us off by, hang on a second, admitting. That's all right, Kirsty. I hope you get better soon. I'm going to start us off by saying why WomenEd works in partnership with the National College of Education. As you can see from my backdrop, WomenEd has 4 campaigns that we work on, and particularly the aspects that we think the programs in partnership with the National College support, well, they're all of them basically, because the program has been curated and the curriculum has been developed to address some of these issues. But the really specific programs, campaigns the program helps with, a representation of women in leadership posts, especially senior leadership posts, because that's where we know the significant gap is there. And so we need a pipeline of women coming through middle leadership into senior leadership. And we also need that pipeline to start extending itself up towards CEO level, because there are not enough CEOs in our system. And we need women there to be bringing our superpowers to that work. It's also about representation of women with a diverse background. And 20% of the places on the senior leadership program is reserved for women with an ethnic heritage or women from other underrepresented groups, because we really want to offer our support to women for whom the system seems to make it much harder. But in doing that, we also work on some key issues of learning that we ensure are brought to the forefront for all of the WomenEd cohorts. So we do look at flexible working in quite significant ways, and we also do talk about and explore the gender pay gap. And it's been an absolutely wonderful experience to be part of the first cohort. And we're now on our, what are we on now? Are we on our 3rd or our 4th? Or are we recruiting for our 4th?
We're recruiting for our 4th. We've only got a little one on the 3rd one, so they've joined the 2nd one with our lovely colleague Alison Bellingham, who's just there.
Is Alison here? Super. Oh, there you go, Alison. Hello, lovely.
Hi.
So we're recruiting for a new cohort, which will start in May. And we want to make sure you've got all the information you need to be able to decide to apply. WomenEd has 8 values. We're a values-driven organisation, and some of our values are particularly important for the way that we develop things within this programme. Community is essential for WomenEd. We've got a phenomenal community, and we're heading to 45,000 followers on Twitter. So that is a massive community of women all wanting to lift other women up and support and empower you. And we recreate that community feeling within the WomenEd cohort. Sometimes what people don't understand is we have a huge cohort of learners, and in some of the programs it's upwards of several hundred, in some it's smaller as we build smaller cohorts in. So that's that cohort, but within that cohort of learners, which is a mixed cohort, we have a WomenEd only group, so that you start to build a community with other learners who are women and who experience leadership in the same way that you do. And then even within that community, the WomenEd cohort is then divided into smaller personal learning networks, so that you can really get to know a group of learners, share your successes, share your challenges, and help and learn from each other. And I know Rachel will talk a little bit more about that. We also take the opportunity whenever possible to address our 2 really important values, which are challenge and change. So we will challenge you if you join the WomenEd cohort for this programme, and I hope that's one of the things you want of yourself, and we'll help you challenge your organisation in significant ways. I love it that, Mina, you're nodding away going, yes, tick, tick. We'll challenge your organisation, and we'll also challenge the systemic issues that hold change back for women. And you can all be trailblazers in making that change happen. And those are the key reasons and the key purposes of why we have developed and why we support this programme. And therefore, I think a key issue that is important in leadership development is that it's therefore personalised. It's personalised to your experience of a woman who leads in education. It's personalised through your WomenEd cohort community, where we really dive into the challenges that you face. And it's also personalised in your small learning groups. And it's joyous to see the relationships and the support that women on the existing programmes have gained from that. So all of that is why WomenEd is part of this programme. And what I want to do now is hand over to Rachel O'Halloran, who's head of the National College of Education, and she's going to take you through the specific parts of the programme that the Masters in the Apprenticeship that the National College supports you with. Over to you, Rachel.
Thank you, Vivian, and welcome, colleagues. So lovely to see you, and thank you for making the effort to come and join us on a Tuesday afternoon when I'm sure you're hugely busy with lots of other demands on your time. So the National College of Education is a disruptor. We like to do things differently. We like to cause a bit of stir. We like to take things and challenge them. So yay, says Mina. So what we do, we take the levy that your school organisation pays as a tax, the apprenticeship levy, and we utilise that to fund training. If your organisation has a wage bill that's £3 million or more, you will pay into the levy. So one of the first things you need to do is check that you pay into the levy. If you don't, it's not a massive problem, and Charlie Kilby, our wonderful team leader in sales, will be able to guide you through that process. But this is a course that costs nothing to you and nothing to your organisation, because if they don't use it to fund professional development, it will just be taken as a tax. So that's the first huge benefit. And because it's funded by the levy, you're actually on an apprenticeship, which may seem, you might actually think, why would I be doing an apprenticeship? I'm a senior leader in a school, or I'm about to be, or I'm a middle leader. You know, I'm blank years old. Why would I be doing an apprenticeship? But an apprenticeship is all about developing in your role. It's all about knowledge into practice. So one of the beauties of doing this kind of course as opposed to maybe something like an MPQ, and I wouldn't ever say that MPQs aren't great, because they are. And it just depends where you are in your career and what you're wanting to do, the qualification that you take. And you can do an MPQH and you can do this as well. You can do whatever you like, really. That's the beauty of it. But I think what the beauty of our courses is, and what we do, is very different. So first of all, when you're on an apprenticeship, it's an employer-led qualification. So we work with your employer to ensure that what you're doing has an impact in your organisation and on you during the time in which you're with us. So you don't do a qualification and then wait, and then do a project and then see if that's helpful. All the time we're working with your employer and thinking about what's most helpful for you. And it's all about what you're doing every day. So if you're presenting to a team, and we've just done some work on, in Women Ed particularly, confidence or language to use, that should have an impact on the work that you do and the behaviours that you show. We also get to have a senior leadership tutor. So we have Susie and Alison and Nell on here, who are tutors and mentors who support you throughout your learning journey. Oh, and Sarah Cottenden. Sorry, Sarah, I didn't see you there, head of level 5. And we support you on your journey. Vivian talked about it being a personalised journey, and that's exactly what the apprenticeship is. So we have 4 modules, well, 5 modules, but the 4 main modules that we do: strategy and education, people management, finance, governance and risk, and innovation and change. Everyone does that content. But then when you work with your mentor or your tutor, we personalise that learning to you. What does that learning mean for you in your context right now? And how can you develop your learning? Where are your gaps? What can we do to develop your learning so you can have an impact in your role? And the way that we deliver that learning is we have a day where we do online lectures. And in between those lectures, we do some sense making in our groups, just to make sure we haven't got any misconceptions, that we understand it. And then on the second day, we meet in person in regional venues, and we make sense of that learning in your context. We put that knowledge into practice, and we also talk you through the assignment that you'll be doing, because you do have to do assignments. And you have to do assignments so that you can get the second part of the qualification, which is your master's. So this is a really practical course because it's an apprenticeship, but there are some things that you have to do around that apprenticeship. So you have to log something we call off-the-job training, which is basically the work that you're doing and how the knowledge that we give you and the learning that you do impacts upon that, and you can demonstrate that in practice. So for example, we might have done some work on ethics and values. You might then lead a meeting where you talk about that and start to change your policies as a result. That's all what we call off-the-job learning, and we can talk to you a lot more about that as we go through. And in order to be successful on an apprenticeship, you have to meet that measure. There's another measure around standards. So at level 7 and at level 5, the standards are split into knowledge, skills and behaviours, which are deemed what you should be able to demonstrate if you're acting at a level 7, a senior leader, or a level 5 as a middle leader. And again, your mentor and your tutor works with you to ensure that you can demonstrate those. We might come and watch you deliver a meeting. You might upload some materials, some resources that you have written and designed. Oops, sorry, I don't know what I just did then. But there's lots of ways in which you can meet those, and there's lots of time to do it as well. What else is different? The networking element. So we've got Amy, Sandra, I know we've got Jacqueline and Mina on today to tell you a little bit about their experience. But I think Nell and I were talking, Nell and I work on the first cohort of Women Ed, and we were talking about it today because out of 59 learners that we started with, 21 of those have been promoted in their role since they started the course. A bit of that is down to me and Nell, helping and supporting them. And a lot of that is down to the networks that they've created in their peer learning groups, the help and support that they've given actually not just each other, but people beyond that, wives, girlfriends, daughters, nieces, friends, anyone who needs that help. And that's what makes it special, I think, is those networks that we've created, because we know that women have got really great social networks, but not so much professionally. And research tells us that. So we plug that gap. We make those professional relationships for you. And then we leave you to it and create something really special. And of course, not least Vivian and Vivian's kind of unending support for people going into interviews, writing letters, coaching and developing people. So Women Ed is something that's really, really important to me and the NCE, and we put a lot into it. So when you join us, it's not a cult, I'm not going to say that, but you know, you join it and you're in it. And like everything in life, I think, the more you put into it, the more you will get out of it. At the very least, what you will get out of it is a level 7 senior leadership apprenticeship from the CMI and a master's. What you might also get out of it is friendships for life. You might get a new network. You might get, or you probably will get, never-ending support in your career. And the one thing that is super important is that once you get there, you turn around and you pull the next woman up behind you, because that's something that we really, really, not push, that's not the right word, is it? But we really value. It's not just about us, it's about all women. And if we can be there and we can be the mentor and we can turn around and go, come on, you can do it. Look, I've made it. Never mind, Esther, nice to see you. Do get in touch with us if you'd like to hear more.
And we'll send you the recording, Esther.
And I've only got 6 minutes and I'm going to talk for like 20, so I'll just say a couple of more things. So the other thing I want to say is we are a broad church of ideas. So we take lots of ideas from research, from the business community, from all over, and we use those ideas to think about leadership in a different way. So you might hear some things that you've heard before, but a lot of the things we'll present you with, you will not have encountered before, and they will change your mind. I think the biggest thing that usually changes people's minds are things about psychological safety in the workplace. Values and ethics always changes people's minds. One of the reasons we've had lots of promotions is that people think this is not the place for me anymore. As a woman, it's not giving me what I need. So we have that broad church, and we have speakers from outside of education and within it. So you find lecturers that, again, you wouldn't normally encounter. You don't just see the same old faces on our courses. That's probably enough, because I know I've gone over time a little bit. I'm just seeing if there's anything else. Oh yeah, care and challenge. So you will get challenged on this course. There's absolutely no doubt about it. But we balance care and challenge, I think, really well. So we will push you to be your best, but we'll also make sure we give you that care as well at the same time, and manage it when you can't quite do the thing that you need to be able to do. Nell, who works with me on this cohort, there is nothing about apprenticeships that Nell doesn't know, and she can't get you through, and she can't help you with, and she's absolute, just, I don't know what we do without her, really. But we manage through the support that we give you, through people like Alison and Susie and Sarah, who've got a huge amount of experience in both apprenticeship and school leadership. So we've always got people to help you. If it's not your peer learning group and it's not us, we'll find someone who can help you. So if you want to find out more, we'll keep telling you this, but Charlie Kilby will be available to talk to you. But I think the best thing you can do is now listen to our learners, and they're going to give you 2 minutes of their experience. Their 2 minutes might be like my 6 minutes, so they might say a little bit more. But Vivian, I don't know if you want to introduce our learners and ask them to talk.
Oh yes, except I might not be able to find everybody. The one thing I wanted to add, Rachel, there is when you said, you know, when the programme finishes, and that's the programme for middle leaders and a programme for senior leaders, obviously the support from the National College dials down, but the support from Women Ed will continue. We're a career-long network, so you know, there'd have to be something really drastic happen for you not to be part of Women Ed in that way. So we've got your back, helping you and moving you forward after your program. And if you join the cohort, then you're women headed for life, basically. So I see that as a real advantage. Let's talk to the learners now. And if you've got questions coming up, put them in the chat so we can make sure we ask that. And we will leave time for questions at the end also. So Amy Smith, could we start with you, Amy?
Yes.
Your 2-minute countdown is on.
I hope someone will give me a two when like that, so that I start. Hello, everybody. My name's Amy. My current role is the Director of Education and the Deputy CEO of the Inclusive Education Trust. So we are a collection of AP academies, formerly known as pupil referral units. When I started the course, I was a head. It was my second headship. And my reason for joining the course was, as I kind of crept into leadership, I found myself sat in a sea of men, and I have, through my career, have kind of had experiences where, because I became a mother, that I wasn't able to do certain things because I was a parent, and that totally goes against my view of what kind of leadership and what education should be about. And so the women's ed part of it really kind of spoke to me in terms of actually being in a group of women who had similar viewpoints and kind of the blue sky thinking. In terms of the course, the actual course, it was, we were becoming a multi-academy trust and my role was changing, and I felt that a lot of stuff that the course was going to go through was going to really empower me to be able to stand up in front of staff and kind of get rid of that imposter syndrome and actually know what I was talking about. And I have to say, I never thought a course would have the impact, and it probably feels like I'm selling a dream, but genuinely, everything that we have done as an Academy Trust has been really driven by the lectures, by the conversation that the course has provided. I think Rachel talked about visions and values. We did a huge piece of work pre-conversion on visions and values that came directly from what I had learned and experienced on the course. We're now just embarking on our EDI strategy, which we're actually changing to a unique strategy as a trust, because we're also slightly controversial and disruptors. And again, that has come directly. I came onto the course, I think, because I was already in leadership, not thinking that I knew it all, because I know that I'm learning every day. But actually, there were things on the course that I knew already, but what it did was made me think about them differently. And that really has been, for us as schools, going through the process and me taking on a new role within the trust, transformational. And actually, I've done courses before. I did all the leading from the middle and all those courses, and actually it was kind of a bit of a tick box exercise, but this really has, really struck a chord that has been fundamental in how our schools have developed, and actually it's enabled us to empower women as well as men. But
that's fantastic, Amy. Thank you so much for that. Love that the values and vision is central there for you in terms of what you've learned. I really appreciate that, Amy. Thank you. Sandra, hello.
Hello. So I'm Sandra Davis. I'm Director of Digital Strategy at Godolphin School in Salisbury. So it's an independent girls' school. I had to really fight to get on the course. My school's not hugely good at professional development, but I really wanted to do it, and I've seen it on Twitter. So when I started the course, I was a middle leader doing digital strategy across the school. And since I've been on the course, I'm now a member of the senior leadership team. So that's been really good. But in terms of what the course has given me, I think Rachel asked me to talk about resilience, and I was thinking about what resilience is. I think actually it's just confidence. I think the thing the course has given me is just a huge amount of confidence, because I've had so much theory that's gone behind kind of things I kind of knew, but now I've got the theoretical background, and it allows you to speak to people with confidence and with authority. And I think that's made a huge difference. The networks has been phenomenal. I see obviously Jacqueline's on the call today, so she's in one of my WhatsApp groups. It's just been so helpful, and we've just dragged each other through the dissertation that we've just submitted, and I'm confident that not everybody would have submitted without the support of literally of a WhatsApp group. It made a massive difference. And the last thing I'll say is I'm really chuffed today actually, is because I've just finally got the sign off on school for my strategic data manager to join the May cohort of the Women's Ed. So I'm really pleased about that as well, for the bringing someone up. So that's been quite hard work. That's taken months of work, but that's really pleasing as well. But I would wholeheartedly recommend the course. I think, as Amy said, it's a really rounded course. It comes from a lot of different directions, and it has a massive impact on your practice.
Oh, that's fantastic, Sandra, and congratulations on getting your legacy moving forward in the organisation. That's wonderful. There's some lovely tweets coming out as well, so please do, if there's something you want to say on Twitter, please do, because we just want to reach as many women as we possibly can. That would be great. Mina, hello.
Hi everyone, I'm Mina. I started off as a head teacher when I joined 2 years ago. I think Amy and Sandra have just touched on the depth that you gain, the knowledge that you gain. I feel like I became the disruptor because of the values driven leadership, that it encourages you to think at such depth about everything, you know, becomes self-reflection, and gaining that true self-confidence. Two really positive stories we've heard. Mine was slightly different, but so positive. I went from a head to having to leave because there were areas that I was learning about, and the vision and the values that mean so much weren't marrying, is a good way to say it. So just the amount that you get from the reading, vision, the impact of vision and culture, not just as tokenistic words, but all the reading that's in there about how central it is to the values is really, really worth it. The pieces that are written on Women Ed, the short, sharp pieces, and you look at them and think, gosh, that must have been written recently, and then you're shocked to find a piece that was written 20 years ago and there's not as much change. And you know, Women Ed are doing so much to make that difference, and you know, to make it what we need it to be. As that 20% that Vivian was talking about, I can't pretend, I did start and I did have a lot of imposter syndrome. What am I doing on this course? The way the cohort, everyone around you, the support systems, they help you to peel back those layers so that imposter syndrome just I won't say disappears, but you know, it becomes a tiny little part of who you are. My journey was different because I had my own challenges. But the key thing is Women Ed and NCE, they absolutely brought back everything to what is your vision, what are your values, and just to stay true to those. And I've got to say, I haven't been happier in the 20 years I've been in education as I have been the past 6 months. So thank you very much, Women Ed, and Rachel and Nell, I can't thank you enough for everything that you've done.
Thank you so much, Mina. Can we just unpick for a moment the fact that you started as a head teacher?
Yeah.
And your current role is?
I'm now a deputy head teacher.
So when we're saying that the programme supports women to move forward, you still absolutely have, haven't you? That's a key message for you, that you're now in the right place and you're able to be the leader you've always wanted to be.
I think what you've got to remember is you will learn about this is about toxic cultures, and sometimes what happens is that you're in it and you're so deep in it that you don't realise how toxic it is. And I'm not pointing fingers at anybody or anything, I'm just talking about my personal journey. I have definitely grown because I am a better educator because of the 2 years that I've been with the NCE and with Women Ed. I have literally, if I start talking about the reading, Simon Sinek, you've already touched on Amy Edmondson, Culture Code really just turned it around for me that actually a workplace should be somewhere where, regardless of your gender, your sexual preference, your, you know, all the different, it shouldn't matter, you should be respected as a human being. And learning about the importance of things like Culture Code and starting with your why and, like you said, psychological safety, you begin to unpick actually how strong is where you're at, and if it isn't, what can you do about it? I became the disruptor, but you can only disrupt so much within an organization. And you know, the choice for me was, do I carry on disrupting? Going back with everything, like Rachel was saying earlier, that everything they weave in and out, they work with your employer, they work with the team. But when you're getting something batted back at you so many times, there's only so many times before you think, actually, maybe I need to make a different decision. So I've definitely grown. I'm a much stronger. I wouldn't have been talking here 2 years ago.
No, you definitely wouldn't have done, would you? That's super,
No.
Mina. Thank you so much.
As well for Mina and well for all our learners. But talk about 10% braver. Mina was brave enough to think, what do I value? What is important to me? And I'm not led by a title that will make me stay in an organization which doesn't match or aligns to the values and the things I believe in. And I've got a network behind me who will support me to go and do a different role in a new environment. Because the thing that Mina hasn't mentioned, I guess, is that you went to a new context, didn't you? So you went to a deputy head in a special school, whereas before you were in mainstream. And I absolutely expect Mina to be a head again, if that's what she wants, in the near future, when she's got to grips with that new context and understands it to the same level she did before. But just real congratulations to Mina for being that brave, to stick and be true to her values, because I think that's really important. And making such a difference to another community now.
And if I hadn't been on this course, Vivian, sorry, I would never have recognised everything that was wrong about where I was. As a woman, as an Asian woman woman who was a leader, if I couldn't make the impact I needed to the team that I was leading because of powers above, then that wasn't the right place for me to stay, because I couldn't make the changes.
That's very powerful, Mina, and we're just delighted that you found yourself in the right place and you're able to share your experiences and your learning with other people. Just wanted to clarify why it was being 10% braver to change roles in that way. Thank you. And Jacqueline, hello.
Hi. So I'm currently on the course, and I would echo everything that everybody has said, especially one of the things that Sandra said in terms of network. We all know that we're really, really busy at school. We can all have a things to do list as long as our arm, and never ever get those all ticked off. And trying to write a dissertation during that period, there was definitely times where we thought, oh my gosh, we're not going to be able to do it. And I think purely because of our network and the support that we have around us, there was loads of us definitely that submitted. And what we were doing, we were all encouraging each other via WhatsApp, by how many words, or if anybody was looking for a source. And that was really enough momentum for loads of us to really submit. And I know for many of us, we were definitely thinking about whether we would apply for extensions, or whether we just couldn't do it. And there was a moment where we thought, actually, this isn't possible. And what I would say is the course definitely gives you that empowerment to actually make really good decisions. And actually, when you sometimes have that moment and you might doubt yourself, there are plenty of people behind you to chivvy you up, for a better word, and say, actually, no, we can do this together. And I think that is probably one of the strengths of the course, let alone being challenged by some of the theories, the work and the learning and the reading that you really have to kind of sometimes read over again once or twice. And sometimes actually, I know from this course, we have separately in our network, we have done Zoom sessions where we've got together and tried to unpick pieces of reading because we just didn't get it and we couldn't necessarily apply it to our context, but all the support has been there. It's been a really, really good course, and I definitely know I've grown as a professional. So my role is I started my first headship in the pandemic, which sounds crazy now, and I've loved absolutely every moment of it. And I think definitely there's so many things from the essay writing and from the actual leadership days that I've been able to put into practice as a head. Knowing using the right terminology when you're addressing people and having the authority to use that language has been really powerful. But for me, it's really been about knowledge to practice and being able to take away the stuff that you're learning in your essays and how does it really fit into your work environment? How does it fit into leading other people and improving others to be able to make a difference? Because actually, otherwise, what are we doing it for in terms of leadership? We're trying to become better leaders. And I think it's been empowering. I'm excited to be part of the cohort. I'm really excited. And I know from what we said earlier on, that I know the people I've been connected with, I will definitely stay connected with beyond this course. And that's quite a powerful thing to say. And I think, you know, I think we've already arranged to meet up and people travelling from various places across the UK to really kind of come together to support. But it's been a fantastic experience. And when there's been really challenging situations, we've either been able to lead and fall back on kind of evidence and back up what we've been able to say, but also lean on colleagues that are in sometimes the exact same position as yourself, and save time. So it's been an exciting course. I would highly recommend it to anybody joining, that you will be definitely challenged. There will be times where you feel that this is tough and that there's never enough time. However, there is always enough time and you will find time and there will be people around to support you and to hold your hand all the way through. And I just think it's been great. It's been fantastic. I don't regret any minute of it, even though there has been times where it's been tough. But it's been great to be part of a wonderful cohort that's changing the way we think, changing the way people do things and thinking slightly differently and not being afraid to think differently, which is very empowering.
That's wonderful, Jacqueline. Thank you so much indeed. The camaraderie, the community is coming out very strongly, isn't it? We've got a couple of Jennies in the participants. So can we just check? If Jenny, who is going to speak, can she come on camera just to see whether she's here? No. No.
No, I think we were just looking to see if Jenny Webb was here because it was a bit touch and go whether she'd be able to come.
Oh, right. Okay, thank you. Rachel, it'd be really great if we could pull some golden threads from that conversation there. And to me, what was empowering and what I think we have been able to do is to be able to add some additionality to the programme that everybody else is following in the Women Ed sessions. And that what sounds like it's coming through to me here, the additional support, collaboration, shoulders to cry on, all of that has really helped women to get through a challenging time during COVID. So we're all hoping it's going to get less challenging to do a master's and an apprenticeship or the apprenticeship for the middle leaders programme. I think what's coming out of there is that camaraderie, community and sheer resilience to be able to achieve what you've all achieved at a time of extreme and extraordinary difficulty. That's what's
Definitely.
coming across to me, Rachel.
Yeah, and I think we don't let you fail. So even when things are really, really tough, and sometimes I know that I can be really tough with people, but it is that kind of care and challenge, and we will not let you down, and we won't let you fail on this, because it's too important really for us to ensure that female leaders get that opportunity to thrive. And Nell and I were just saying what a brilliant set of learners we have, and how privileged we were to work with you, because you're the magic that you have created together to give each other that support. And Jacqueline mentioned having supporting each other with essays. We do assignments now, but it's the same thing pretty much. During the dissertation, we've had learners in their peer learning groups reading other people's dissertations, giving them some feedback, pushing them to go a little bit further and try a little bit harder. And because it comes from peers, I think it's very well received, because it's all done with a huge amount of love. So the camaraderie and those networks, I think, will stay with people. And I was very, very pleased to be invited to a get together with Jacqueline's group, which I will be already on my calendar and booked in to go down and meet the group in person, because we only ever got to meet once because of COVID. And I think if you can do this program in COVID, you can do it anytime.
Absolutely.
Because COVID has produced so many more challenges. One thing I wanted to say about Jacqueline as well, we did a piece of work really early on, didn't we, Jacqueline, and strategy, using something called a pestle analysis. And ever since, Jack is like, that's it, I just love it, I'll just use it for everything. And has been kind of this just one tiny little nugget of truth, as we say. I think Jacqueline, do come back off Mike, has really kind of influenced the way in which you approach strategy.
Yeah, no, I think, yeah, definitely. I think that was in a lecture, and it just clicked. It just made sense in terms of a really simple way of sharing with the team how to think about other things that impact. And I'm very much about not just keeping the knowledge to myself. I've shared lots of reading with my team, my senior leadership team, and shared some of Vivian's data with regards to equality in pay, and kind of got people revved up about things like that. And it's been fantastic. And I think it's definitely something that I will use continually, and I have done. That's what I can actually really hold my hand, put my hand on my heart and say, there's definitely been things from the course that I will definitely use in my day-to-day practice. So there's always that knowledge to practice, whether it be from marketing to the business side, looking at the finance, and having within our group the school business managers help us through the finance bit and talking us through that. There's just been so much that we've really learned, and has made us better at our jobs, I think. Definitely for me, I can say that.
That's really fascinating, because I've looked at the outcome of the quick poll we did at the beginning, and 68% of everybody here said the one thing they really, really, really wanted from a leadership development program was to be able to improve their practice. So everything all of you have said so far is indicating the impact of your new learning on improved and developed practice. And I think that's what we've always wanted to achieve. This is a fully fledged master's, but it's not only a theoretical set of learning. The challenge is bringing that new knowledge to improved practice, improved teamwork, improved outcomes, but always with the right values and the right ethics in place to do that. And I think that's also at the heart of what we do. We want to ensure that we develop women as ethical, moral leaders who can make a difference for their colleagues as well as their students and their community. And I can hear all of that being echoed in what you say. Shall we let the audience loose, our participants loose on the learners, Rachel?
We shall. So we're going to move into a couple of breakout rooms, and it's an opportunity for you to ask our learners and our colleagues about the course, about their experience, about any nitty-gritty elements I think something we might not have mentioned, although we did mention additionalities, we run, Vivian and I and Nell and Alison and Sarah, monthly women ed sessions, and we always kind of end with a bit of a call to action. So we've talked to you about negotiation, then we'll say to you, so what are you going to go do with it? What are you going to do with that learning? And we make no, I think, excuses for that. Our job is to support you and help you and give you those opportunities, but particularly to give you the tools to be able to do it, and the backing that we're behind you, just pushing you that little bit further on with it. Right, I'm going to open that. How long have we got, Vivian?
Well, we said 20 minutes.
Okay, so we're going to go into the breakout rooms for 20 minutes. Vivian and I will pop into each one.
Although it might be best for 15 as we've got in terms of the numbers, because we've gone over a little bit. 15 now.
Okay. All right, I'm opening all the set, please, colleagues.
Rachel, my apologies. I need to make a dash. I'm really sorry.
Oh.
Sorry.
Joining this.
Yeah, I love just listening to it, and you know, I really do, especially like, you know, those learners that have been with us for a while and have really sort of engaged with it. But yeah, it's that time of day for me, I'm afraid.
No problem, Sarah. Thank you for joining.
Thanks a lot. Thanks. Bye-bye, Vivian.
Bye-bye, Sarah.
Vivian, I don't know if you want to pause recording or
Thank you very much then to everybody that was supporting conversations and everybody asking questions. We're going to give space again at the end, as we said, for some more questions and maybe some feedback about what you're learning. But what we'd like to do now is explore what an employer is gaining from this programme, because you're going to have to talk to your employers about participating in the programmes at whatever level you choose. So it's always good to know the kind of things they're interested in. Right, where is Christella? There you go. Thank you very much, Christella. Over to you and what your colleagues have gained from the programme from your perspective.
Hi, good evening, everyone. So I'm currently an executive head of two delightful schools in Haringey in Tottenham. When I joined, it was during the pandemic, the first lockdown, so April 2020. And CPD is quite important to me. Actually, it's pivotal to bringing about school improvement. And an area that I wanted one of my heads of school to develop in was her understanding of her own leadership qualities in order to grow further. So she had completed her NPQH, but just identified a few areas I felt through my connection with Women Ed. I'm going to show off here. I'm a national leader for Women Ed England. Started off as a network leader, started off following actually Women Ed, going to an unconference and being swept away by the strategic team that is now in place, and continued to support Women Ed, became a network leader for London, and now obviously with Women Ed England, sit on a different seat. And can see the impact it's had on me personally, and I wanted a bit of that for my head of school. So looking back on the past year or so, she's secured a headship, so that's the first thing I'm going to celebrate. But her journey's been incredible, and one of the things we discuss regularly is the support from Rachel and Nell. I've just got to say, continually, you are on hand like real confident, strong women who understand the challenges that we face as women, as mothers, as sisters, as women in leadership positions, and are there to not answer only the academic questions, generally life questions that are posed in the role. Similarly, it allowed this particular head of school, because I don't know if I should share her name or not, but this particular head of school to evaluate her own direction and take a good look at areas that she further wanted to develop. The thing that stood out is with the apprenticeship as well, with the Women Ed link, it's a safe space. That doesn't always come with all postgrad qualifications, but I think it's, you know, even we discuss things like, you know, there was a section about budgets, and she said, I would never have picked that because I touched on it with my NPQH, but I had to do it. Having done it, I presented on exactly the same thing in my interview. So unbeknownst to her at the time, she didn't realize when it will be, you know, useful for her. But I think one of the key things is everything is built for a reason. And you know, those small steps to success that we teach our pupils and our students. My head of school felt she really had that. So you're not just given an essay to write on change and then an essay on vision, and then everything was scaffolded in a way that it impacted directly on her practice here and now in our schools. It impacted on her as a network leader, a role she had never envisaged. And it then impacted on her dissertation. Is it 14,000 words? So it all culminated. I mean, we've got an agreement, and we've, you know, I've released her, she's had time, we've had professional discussions about videos she's been exposed to, she's shared research, but it goes beyond research. And I think it's because I think I'm going to be very proud of what she's achieved. I know it's because of not only the camaraderie, but the real support that women give each other. I've got to say that I am over the moon. On Thursday, I was at a conference out of London, away on a residential for 3 days, and she called me that she secured an interview for headship. And I cannot tell you how proud I feel. Like she's my child, though she's not. And I'm so proud that the same way I've opened a door for her, she's now going to continue opening that door for others.
Oh, that's wonderful, Christella. And your modesty means that I'm the one that's going to say that Christella has just gained a CEO post in her trust, and that is also to do with the support of so many women behind you. There's a wonderful image one of our colleagues uses, that when you go in for an interview, you go in with 45,000 women behind you, holding you, pushing you forward. And I think you would say that that kind of level of support helped you make the decision even to apply, Christella, yes?
Absolutely, because I don't know if you have experienced, I hope you haven't, I hope you're stronger than me, but imposter syndrome kicked in, and I coach people to, you know, with skills to embrace challenges, to grab every opportunity. There I was, doubting myself again. So of course Vivian is on speed dial through Twitter, email, text and other. But there's a team as well that really got me through, and I needed convincing, and I wanted to throw the towel in at one point where I felt I just felt it wasn't the right role for me, and why was I, you know, invited to interview? Things changed, but do you know what, for the first time I came out feeling, do you know what, that felt good, that interview felt right. But my confidence has grown. I'm not very loud and outspoken, but I've become confident through my own way of achieving things. So thank you, team. Thank you, Women Ed. Thank you, ladies. You've got this. You've got this.
Thank you, Christella. That's so kind of you to give up your time in your very busy schedule. We really appreciate that. Thank you.
Wish you every success. All the best.
Thanks, Christella. Bye.
Bye.
Okay, so with the time we have left, it's any questions. So there aren't any questions in the chat. So any questions anybody wants to say and ask? Amanda? No, not Amanda. That was my hand on Amanda there in the nicest possible way. Sarah?
Hello, sorry, I've just been washing up and multitasking and listening at the same time. I just wondered, having done the application for the May cohort, is there anything else I need to do now? I've spoken to my line lead, CEO, etc. Does it just then kind of happen?
I can take that one on. So I would obviously have to do a bit of research in terms of where you're at in the process, but essentially for everybody listening, it's quite useful to discuss how the process works. So what will happen is we'll get your inquiry. You'll be assigned to one of our amazing partnerships managers. So I've got a team of almost 12 where we're got 2 newbies starting in the next 2 weeks, but we're about 12 partnerships managers. Someone will be then assigned to you to support you through the whole process. So that will be looking at getting an application form informally. They will then approach your line manager for approval. They will then approach your levy holder, so your employer, just to check that all of that's sorted. We will then be able to have, if you do get any sort of questions that make you go, I don't know what you're talking about in terms of funding, you can then throw them our way and we'll be able to help with that. What we'll then do is there's some compliance documents that we have to collate all together. So that's sort of things that you need to get into program, so certificates and some stuff that will allow you to self-reflect. So there's a document for self-reflection, which I think is really important. Once we've got all of the documentation, we will then pass you across to our admissions team, and they will send you a formal sort of invitation to your first day of learning. So there's a few steps that we have to go through, but in terms of if you have submitted your application form, I can assure you that we're working in the background, and we'll be sending you regular updates to support you through that process.
Thank you very much.
Charlie, can you just explain how a colleague would demonstrate that they wanted to be on the Women Ed cohort, please?
That's exactly what I was going to say.
Like one mind.
You're both reading my mind, because I've just copy and pasted the link that I'm going to post in the chat. So to join the Women Ed cohort, we do have a specific landing page on our website that I'm going to paste into the chat now.
And I put it in the chat earlier on as well. So when we send them the chat, they'll have lots of links.
Yes. So that is your link there. That will then allow you to register as part of the Women Ed cohort. So there's some information at the bottom there that will directly come through to us. And we will then be able to make sure that you are assigned to the Women Ed cohort. No matter who your partnerships manager is that's looking after you, they will be aware that you are looking to join Women Ed, and be able to talk you through sort of the perks of Women Ed. And I might be biased, but I think it is probably a great partnership. It's one that I'm very proud to be sort of sitting on and a part of. I did say in our breakout room,
It's the best one.
It is. I'm trying to be modest. There's other people in the office. But for me, like my own personal experience of being around Women Ed learners and just talking to people, I myself took up a team leader position only 2 months ago, and sort of listening to the responses. And I think actually overall it's a great place to be, and it allows you to drive and push further. And just this afternoon, I was talking to a learner who was like, I want to push myself, I want to excel. And I was like, have you heard of Women Ed? And she was like, no. I was like, brilliant. This is what we need to talk about. This is what you need to do. She's now joining the Women Ed cohort, and she's ready and roaring to go. So it's just understanding that the needs of yourself and putting yourself first. But yeah, there's ways to sign up, and we will talk you through everything that's there, and we'll make sure that you're on the right cohort for you, which is probably the Women Ed cohort, because as Rachel said, it's the best one.
Your check is in the post, Charlie.
Thanks.
Any other questions? That last point is really important about making sure you get into the Women Ed cohort, because there's been times when people haven't done that. Sometimes, for example, your organisation might book you on, particularly if, say, there was a group of people and then the organisation doesn't say, but we want them on the Women Ed cohort, and then there isn't room, etc. So it's really important to have that clarity. There's another question here about how long does is it the application process or the programme? How long does the entire course take? Well, it depends which course, doesn't it? Whether it's the level 5 middle leaders or the senior leaders level 7 programme. Charlie, Rachel?
They both take pretty much the same time, which is about, on the level 7, about 22 months on programme to 24 months, and then something called your EPA, which is your endpoint assessment that you do post your dissertation. On the level 5, it's 19 months plus your endpoint assessment process as well, which is roughly around 3 to 4 months now, isn't it, when you're doing your EPA. So people, sorry, Carol.
Any other questions?
So yeah, on Sea Green, Everyone's mixed together, and that was one of the beauties of actually being on the course, is that it's not just for teachers, it's for business managers, it's for people from primary, secondary, P provision that Amy was talking about, special schools. And one of the best things that we do on level 7 in particular is the face-to-face days where you get to meet colleagues and peers from across the education sector. They might be working as the education lead in a football club. They might be working for a local authority. They might be in a tiny little primary school or a massive secondary school. But what we do is we bring together and share our expertise and experience to support one another to do better and push each other harder. So every type of person, every type of organisation is welcome. And if we do have any colleagues, we haven't talked about actually, one of the things you need is a degree and a 2-1 ideally to go on to level 7. But if you are someone who is in a senior position within your organisation and you're not a teacher, so you haven't actually gone through that university pathway, then we do look at your experience, because that's really worthwhile, and see if there's an opportunity for you to join us. So please don't be put off if you're in one of those roles and you haven't been to university, because that's a conversation Charlie will have with you, because there's certainly an equivalence there to experience in role.
That's a really important point, because one of the things that we're absolutely delighted about is that we have got school business leaders on this programme. That they are in quite a distinct position in a lot of schools of being very senior contributors to the work of the school, but not recognised as members of the senior leadership team sometimes, or not even recognised for the value of what they can offer. And it's been game-changing, hasn't it, for some of the school business leaders on the current programme. So it would be fabulous if you let them know about it as well. And believe you me, it really helps when you get to the finance module to have them all on hand. So, you know, it's for their sake and for your sake that it's good to have that conversation with them.
I would echo that. I would really echo that. The school business leaders have been fantastic across the group, helping us understand those figures and acronyms. They've been brilliant, absolutely brilliant.
And they've gained so much as well, haven't they?
Yeah, we link. So we've got a current learner in Alison's group who is a joint head in a special school, and we've put her in touch with a school business manager on the first cohort who's at a special school to help her navigate through that really complex financial web of special school funding. So you don't just have the support of your cohort. If you've got a particular thing that you need help with, we will find someone with expertise in that to help you as well. And that's one of the other great things about Women Ed. We always find someone who can help you.
There's 45,000 of them just waiting. Any other questions? Concerns? Thank you, Jacqueline. Much appreciated.
Thanks so much, Jacqueline.
Any
Good luck,
other
everyone.
Thank you. Any questions or concerns or worries or advice needed?
Charlie, have you put your details in the chat?
I have not. I will put them in there now. So you've got I'll put my email address in there. And if you send anything through to me, it will either be myself that will pick it up as much as I can. But obviously what we're hoping for is lots and lots of Women Ed learners coming through. So we will then either get in touch with through myself or through one of my colleagues. But if you email me on here, I can give you as much information as you need. If you're sort of asking questions around sort of, do my trust pay into the levy? Do I pay into the levy? If you've got questions like that, you can always come to us and we can sort of see from our base level. But I would always say talk to someone finance-wise, whether that's in your school. If you are part of a trust, talk to the trust. If you're part of the local authority, you might be able to have contacts there just to ask that initial question about the funding and where it comes from in terms of your own individual setting. And then what we will do is we will then help you navigate that. If you are non-levy paying and someone tells you you do not pay into the levy, do not panic. What you can go through is something called co-investment. So that will allow you to still get 95% funding for your programme, and your school will or your organisation will only have to cover 5%. So there are ways around it. Do not be put off if you're like, oh, I'm in a really small school that's definitely not got a wage bill over £3 million. Please do still get in contact with us, and we can help you navigate those conversations and have those conversations with your employer about how this will benefit you, how it will benefit the school in the long run. And for the level 7, it's a £750 thing. It's a £14,000 course. Most of that is funded through the apprenticeship levy. So there are ways to navigate that. So please, please, please do not be put off by the fact that you're non-levy paying. Please do get in contact, and we will navigate and do whatever we can to help you get onto programme eventually. But I'm going to put my email address in here now. If you've got any question at all around anything to do with the programmes, please do get in contact, and I'll be happy to help.
Thank you very much, Charlie. Really appreciate it. And we'd also appreciate it if you could share the details, as we said, with other women who you think this would help with, your colleagues at school or your friends in other schools, etc. Because while we do have a lot of Twitter followers, not everybody's on Twitter. I have no idea why they're not on Twitter, but they're not. So let's get the message out there, because this has really made a phenomenal difference for so many women, not just in the first cohort of people that are finishing now, but in the subsequent cohorts. Wouldn't you agree with that, Alison? Because you've got the second cohort, haven't you?
I absolutely do, yeah. And they're in a fantastic, phenomenal bunch of women who are doing incredible work. But yeah,
some of them have already gained promotions, haven't they? And they only 5 have already got. How long have they been doing it?
Since September. Actually, no, 6 of them have. Someone today is just, and I'm just waiting for, I've got 3 more who've gone for interviews. So I can't do 3 today. 3 more who've gone for interviews this week. So waiting to hear from those as well. And they've gone from senior leaders to either heads, or they've gone from assistant heads to deputy heads. A lot of them changed school, but kept with the local authorities. So their funding requirements remain the same. But yeah, they're doing amazing work out there in the field, and a real mix as well of special schools, of state maintained multi-academy trusts, primary, pupil referral units, a big range.
That's fantastic. Those are phenomenal.
Favorite things.
Alison's beaten your numbers there, Rachel.
That's not true.
It is in the first 3 months.
What, 20? It's not first 3 months in September. It's March. That's 6 months.
Oh, is it 6 months now?
Yeah.
I just thought I'd wind you up a bit.
Haven't we now? No, we might have another one.
There's no competition in Women Ed.
Does
totally collaboration, no competition.
No competition.
Any other questions, comments? Because
you know,
I could nearly finish an event early. I never finish events early.
I want to say this because it's Alison's group do something like their own book group, don't they, Alison? That you were telling me about that, I think is brilliant. So just share that.
It is called Northern Lasses Book Club, and I'm most affronted because I'm not allowed to be part of it because I'm their tutor rather than, but I am a Northern Lass. So that was a bit of a knock. But yeah, they meet once a month. So they choose a text, and it's always relevant to the module that they're doing at the time. And they share out the chapters, and they talk about what they've learned from it. They exchange notes on it. And generally, I would suspect that there's a glass or 2 of wine that passes the lips of this group, but they are amazing people who are so incredibly supportive. And again, they're from really different schools. So one's a UTC, one's a grammar school that she's an ex-deputy head of international schools out in Kuwait. So massive range of experience there, which is really brilliant. And they're fantastic.
That's super, super. Okay, if there are no more questions, then we can leave it here. We will send you the chat after this so that you've got the links there. And we'll also send you the recording once we've sorted out the pause in the middle. And we'll make sure you've got all of the links. And we really look forward to working with you, either in the cohort that is about to start in May, or the next cohort, as some of you have explained, that's going to be more suitable for you. Thank you so much to those of you who contributed your own experiences. I can still see Amy and Mina there, so really appreciated you joining us this evening. And to the tutors and the colleagues at the National College of Education, really appreciate your time and everything you do for the women that you support. Any last words, Rachel?
Just do it.
What are you waiting for?
Do it.
That would be lovely. Thank you so much. We're very delighted it was useful for you, and we look forward to collaborating and learning with you. Thank you, everybody.
You. Thanks,
Bye.
everybody.
Thank you.
Bye.
Are you stopping recording?